Hello everyone and welcome to CBSE Grade 9 Science Physics. In this video, we begin Chapter 8, Motion, Part 1. In this lesson, we will understand the basic concepts of motion, including distance and displacement, speed, and velocity, explained clearly with real-life examples. These concepts form the foundation of the chapter and are very important from the exam point of view. In the next part, we will continue with graphical representation of motion, where we will learn distance, time and velocity time graphs step by step. So, let's get started and make motion easy to understand. In this lesson on motion, we will cover the following topics: motion and rest, and the idea that motion is relative. Look carefully at the picture on the screen. What do we observe? We observe that the objects shown here are in motion. But why do we say that these objects are in motion? To answer this question, let us begin our study of motion in this chapter. What is meant by motion? Let us consider an example of an observer observing a car. We notice that the position of the car is changing with respect to its surroundings. So, the car is in motion. A body is said to be in motion when it changes its position with respect to its surroundings. The position of the hands of a clock changes continuously with respect to the clock face. So, the hands of the clock are in motion. In a river, the position of water keeps changing with respect to the river bank. So, water is in motion. Due to revolution, the position of the earth changes continuously with respect to the sun. So, the earth is in motion. In all these cases, motion is observed because the position of an object changes continuously with respect to its surroundings. Then, what is meant by rest? Let us consider an example of an observer observing a car stopping at a signal. Here, the position of the car does not change with respect to the road and nearby surroundings. So, the car is at rest. A body is said to be at rest when it does not change its position with respect to its surroundings. Motion is relative. This means that whether an object is in motion or at rest depends on the observer. For example, when we observe a stationary object like a monument from the ground, it appears to be at rest. But if the same observation is made from a moving vehicle, the position of that object appears to change with respect to the observer. So, an object that is at rest for one observer may be in motion for another observer. Therefore, motion and rest are not absolute, they are relative to the observer and the reference point. Motion is relative. This means that the state of motion or rest of an object depends on the observer. A body can be moving for one observer, and at the same time, it can be at rest for another observer. For example, an object on the surface of the earth may appear to be at rest to an observer on earth. But the same object appears to be in motion to an observer in space because the earth itself is moving. Therefore, motion does not have a fixed meaning. It always depends on the observer and the chosen reference point. Hence, we say that motion is relative. Multiple choice questions. Question 1. Motion is said to be. Options are relation, relative, changing, and none. The correct answer is relative. Motion depends on the observer and the reference point. An object may appear to be moving for one observer and at rest for another. Therefore, motion is said to be relative. Question 2. When in motion, the body changes its dash with respect to its surroundings. The options are size, shape, position, and no change. The correct answer is position. A body is said to be in motion when its position changes with respect to its surroundings. Change in size or shape is not necessary for motion. Question 3. An object may appear to be moving for one person and dash for another person. The options are stationary, motion, changing, and relation. The correct answer is stationary. This shows that motion and rest depend on the observer. The same object can be at rest for one observer and in motion for another. Definition-based question and answer. Define motion. A body is said to be in motion if it changes its position with respect to its surroundings. This means that whenever the position of an object changes relative to a reference point, the object is said to be in motion. Define rest. A body is said to be at rest if it does not change its position with respect to its surroundings. So, if there is no change in position relative to the surroundings, the object is considered to be at rest. Motion is relative. A body can be moving for one observer and at the same time at rest for another observer. This shows that motion and rest depend on the observer and the reference point chosen. In this part of the chapter on motion, we will study uniform and non-uniform motion, and an activity based on motion. Uniform and non-uniform motion. Motion can be classified into two main types: uniform motion and non-uniform motion. Uniform motion. Uniform motion is the motion in which an object covers equal distances in equal intervals of time. This means that the object moves at a constant speed. For example, the hands of a clock cover equal distances in equal intervals of time, so they show uniform motion. In uniform motion, the acceleration is zero because the speed does not change. Non-uniform motion. Non-uniform motion is the motion in which an object covers unequal distances in equal intervals of time. This means that the speed of the object keeps changing. For example, a flying bird does not cover the same distance every second, so its motion is non-uniform. In non-uniform motion, the acceleration is not constant because the speed changes continuously. Identify the type of motion. Case 1. Motion of electrons round the nucleus. Let us identify the type of motion shown here. The electrons move around the nucleus in a regular circular path and cover equal distances in equal intervals of time. Therefore, the motion of electrons around the nucleus is an example of uniform motion. Case 2. Train arriving at or leaving the station. Now observe the motion of the train. When a train arrives at or leaves a station, its speed keeps changing. It covers unequal distances in equal intervals of time. Hence, this motion is an example of non-uniform motion. Case 3. Motion of the hands of a clock. Consider the motion of the hands of a clock. The hands of the clock move at a constant speed and cover equal distances in equal intervals of time. So, the motion of the hands of a clock is uniform motion. Case 4. Motion of vehicles on an extremely busy road. Now look at the vehicles on a busy road. Due to traffic signals, congestion, and frequent changes in speed, vehicles cover unequal distances in equal intervals of time. Therefore, this is an example of non-uniform motion. Case 5. Motion of a bird. Observe the motion of the bird. A bird changes its speed and direction frequently while flying and does not cover equal distances in equal time intervals. Hence, the motion of a bird is non-uniform motion. So, by observing how distance changes with time, we can identify whether the motion is uniform or non-uniform. Activity: Uniform motion. Now let us do an activity to understand uniform motion. Amar, Akbar, and Anthony are traveling in their own cars. Our task is to find whose car is moving with uniform motion. Step 1. Observing the time interval. First, observe the clock time. The time difference between each reading is 30 minutes. So, all three cars are observed over equal intervals of time. Step 2. Observing Amar's distance. Now look at the distance covered by Amar. Amar covers 20 kilometers every 30 minutes. The distance covered in each equal time interval is the same. So, Amar's car is moving with uniform motion. Step 3. Observing Akbar's distance. Next, observe the distance covered by Akbar. Akbar covers different distances in each 30-minute interval. Sometimes it is 18 kilometers, sometimes 6 kilometers, sometimes 28 kilometers. So, Akbar's car is not moving with uniform motion. Step 4. Observing Anthony's distance. Now observe Anthony's distance. Anthony covers 14 kilometers every 30 minutes. The distance covered in each equal time interval remains the same. So, Anthony's car is also moving with uniform motion. Therefore, the cars moving with uniform motion are Amar's car and Anthony's car. Akbar's car shows non-uniform motion because the distance covered in equal intervals of time is not the same. Next, we will move ahead in this chapter. We will learn about physical quantities and then understand the system of units used to measure them. Physical quantities. In physics, we often deal with things that can be measured. Such measurable quantities are called physical quantities. Anything that can be measured is called a physical quantity. Let us take distance as an example. Can distance be measured? Yes. Distance can be measured. Therefore, distance is a physical quantity. Now consider time. Can time be measured? Yes. Time can be measured using clocks. So, time is also a physical quantity. Now let us think about love. Can love be measured? No. Love cannot be measured. Therefore, love is not a physical quantity. So, we can say that only those quantities which can be measured are called physical quantities. Types of physical quantities. Physical quantities are of two types. Scalars. Vectors. Scalars definition. Physical quantities that can be completely described by their magnitude alone are called scalar quantities. Magnitude means value or number. To measure time, direction is not required. Only the value matters. So, time is a scalar quantity. To measure mass, direction is not required. Only how much mass is present matters. So, mass is also a scalar quantity. Some examples of scalar quantities are time, mass, distance, and temperature. Vectors definition. Physical quantities that have both magnitude and direction are called vector quantities. To measure force, we need to know how strong the force is and in which direction it acts. So, force is a vector quantity. When we push or pull an object, the direction of the push or pull matters. Hence, push and pull represent vector quantities. Some examples of vector quantities are force, displacement, velocity, and acceleration. So, remember, scalars need only magnitude, while vectors need both magnitude and direction. Units and system of measurement. Units are a system of measurement. Whenever we measure any physical quantity like length, mass, or time, we need a unit to express it clearly. To measure physical quantities, different systems of measurement are used. There are two main systems of measurement we study. MKS system. In the MKS system, length is measured in meter, mass is measured in kilogram, time is measured in second. So, MKS stands for meterth kilogram second. CGS system. In the CGS system, length is measured in centimeter, mass is measured in gram, time is measured in second. So, CGS stands for centimeter gram second. The MKS system is also known as the C system. C stands for System International Units, also called Standard International Units. The C system is accepted and used all over the world, which makes measurements uniform and easy to understand everywhere. So, to measure physical quantities accurately and universally, we use standard units, and the most commonly used system is the C system. In this section, we will learn about two important terms related to motion. First, we will understand the meaning of distance. Next, we will learn what displacement means. Then, we will see the difference between distance and displacement. Finally, we will understand these concepts using simple real-life examples. By the end of this lesson, you will be able to clearly explain distance and displacement and tell how they are different. Concept of distance and displacement. Now let us understand an important concept in motion, distance and displacement. We will understand this using a simple example of an athlete running on a track. Here, point A is the starting point of motion. This is where the athlete begins the race. Point B is the final point, where the athlete finishes the race. An athlete is running a race on a circular track. As the athlete moves, he does not move in a straight line, but follows the shape of the track. The athlete covers a path of 250 meters between point A and point B. This curved path shows the actual route taken by the athlete during the motion. The actual path traveled by the athlete during motion is called distance. So here, the distance covered by the athlete is 250 meters. Now, imagine drawing a straight line between the starting point A and the final point B. Let us assume this shortest straight line distance is 160 meters. The shortest distance between the initial point and the final point of motion is called displacement. So in this case, the displacement of the athlete is 160 meters. Now observe the situation carefully. The athlete starts from point A, runs along the track, and finally comes back to the same point A. So here, initial point is equal to A, final point is equal to A. This means the athlete has completed one full round and returned to the starting position. Distance. Look at the path covered by the athlete. The athlete runs 500 meters along the track. This entire curved path is the actual path traveled. The distance covered by the athlete is 500 meters because distance depends on the total path covered, not on direction or starting-ending point. Displacement. Now let us think about displacement. Displacement is the shortest distance between the initial and final position. Here, initial point is equal to A. Final point is equal to A. The shortest distance between A and A is 0. So the displacement is 0 meters. Distance can be non-zero, even when displacement is 0. Distance depends on the path traveled. Displacement depends only on the initial and final positions. When an object returns to its starting point, distance is not equal to 0. Displacement is equal to 0. Explanation of distance and displacement table. Now let us understand distance and displacement using this table. Case 1. From A to B. In the first case, the object moves from point A to point B. The distance covered is 250 meters. This is the actual path traveled by the object. The displacement is 160 meters. This is the shortest straight line distance between point A, initial point, and point B, final point. Here, distance is greater than displacement because distance depends on the path, while displacement depends only on initial and final positions. Case 2, from A to A. Now look at the second case. The object starts from point A, moves along a path, and finally returns to point A. The distance covered is 500 meters. This is the total length of the path traveled. The displacement is 0 meters. This is because the initial point and final point are the same. Even though the object has moved, the displacement becomes 0 because there is no change in position. Key learning from the table. Distance can be non-zero even when displacement is 0. Distance is always greater than or equal to displacement. Distance depends on the path traveled. Displacement depends only on the starting and ending points. Key point. If an object returns to its starting point, displacement is 0 but distance is not 0. Now let us clearly understand the difference between distance and displacement. First, let us talk about distance. Distance is defined as the total path traveled by an object, irrespective of the direction. It only tells us how much ground has been covered, not where the object ended up. Since distance depends only on the magnitude and not on direction, it is a scalar quantity. That means, for distance, we do not need to mention any direction. Also, the value of distance is always equal to or greater than displacement because it includes the entire path traveled. Now let us look at displacement. Displacement is the shortest distance measured from the initial position to the final position of an object. Unlike distance, displacement depends on both magnitude and direction. So, displacement is a vector quantity. The value of displacement is always equal to or less than distance because it represents only the straight line change in position, not the full path. An important point to remember is that in straight line motion, distance and displacement are equal because the actual path and the shortest path are the same. So, to summarize, distance tells us how much path is covered. Displacement tells us how far and in which direction the object has moved. Distance and displacement MCQs. Question 1. Distance. In the given figure, the object starts its motion from point A, goes to B, then C, then D, and finally comes back to A. Let us calculate the distance traveled. Distance means the total path covered, irrespective of direction. From the diagram, A to B is equal to 3 meters. B to C is equal to 5 meters. C to D is equal to 3 meters. D to A is equal to 5 meters. So, total distance is equal to 3 plus 5 plus 3 plus 5 is equal to 16 meters. Therefore, the correct answer is option B, 16 meters. Question 2. Displacement. Now let us find the displacement. Displacement is the shortest distance between the initial and final positions. Here, the object starts from point A and finally comes back to point A itself. So, the initial position and final position are the same. Hence, the shortest distance between them is 0. Therefore, the displacement is 0 meters. So, the correct answer is option A, 0 meters. This clearly shows that when an object returns to its starting point, distance is non-zero, but displacement is 0. Question 3. Vectors are physical quantities which poses dash. Let us recall the definition of a vector quantity. A vector quantity must have both magnitude and direction. Magnitude tells us how much, and direction tells us which way. If either one is missing, the quantity cannot be a vector. Therefore, the correct answer is option B, magnitude and direction. Question 4. When an athlete runs on a circular track and reaches the same point dash. Here, the athlete moves along a curved path, so the distance traveled is the length of the entire track covered. But since the athlete comes back to the same starting point, the displacement is zero. So clearly, distance is greater than displacement. Hence, the correct answer is option B, distance, displacement. Question 5. Displacement is dash quantity. Displacement depends on how much distance is covered and in which direction the object moves. Since it needs both magnitude and direction, displacement is a vector quantity. Therefore, the correct answer is option A, vector. These questions reinforce that distance is a scalar, displacement is a vector, and whenever direction matters, the quantity is vector in nature. Now let us answer an important conceptual question. An object has moved through a distance. Can it have zero displacement? The answer is yes. Even if an object moves through a distance, its displacement can be zero. Let us understand this with the example shown on the slide. Here, a car starts its journey from point A and travels 30 kilometers to point B. After reaching point B, the car turns back and travels another 30 kilometers to return to point A. So, the total distance traveled by the car is A plus BA, that is, 30 kilometers plus 30 kilometers, which equals 60 kilometers. However, displacement depends only on the initial and final positions. In this case, the car starts at point A and finally comes back to the same point A. Since the initial position and final position coincide, the displacement is zero. So, this example clearly shows that an object may travel a non-zero distance, yet have zero displacement. Let us now answer this conceptual question. Which of the following statements is true for displacement? Statement A says that displacement cannot be zero. Statement B says that the magnitude of displacement is greater than the distance traveled by the object. The correct answer is that both these statements are not true. Let us understand why. First, displacement can be zero. If an object starts from a point and finally comes back to the same point, its initial and final positions are the same. In such a case, even though the object has moved, the displacement becomes zero. So, statement A is incorrect. Now look at statement B. The magnitude of displacement is never greater than the distance traveled. In fact, displacement is always less than or equal to the distance traveled. This is because distance measures the actual path, while displacement measures the shortest straight-line distance between the initial and final positions. Therefore, statement B is also incorrect. Hence, both given statements are not true. In this part of the chapter on motion, we will focus on two important ideas. First, we will understand the concept of speed and velocity and learn how they are different from each other. Next, we will look at the units used to measure speed and velocity and study the relationship between these units. By the end of this section, you will be able to clearly identify speed and velocity in different situations and use the correct units while solving numerical problems. Speed and velocity. Now let us understand the concepts of speed and velocity. First, we will look at speed. Speed is defined as the distance traveled by an object in unit time. In simple words, it tells us how fast an object is moving without caring about the direction. Mathematically, speed is given by the formula. Speed equals distance divided by time. Speed is a scalar quantity, which means it requires only magnitude. Direction is not required while measuring speed. Now let us move to velocity. Velocity is defined as the displacement of a body in unit time. It can also be understood as the speed of an object in a particular direction. The formula for velocity is velocity equals displacement divided by time. Unlike speed, velocity is a vector quantity. This means it requires both magnitude and direction. Another important point to remember is the relation between speed and velocity. The value of speed is always equal to or greater than velocity, whereas the value of velocity is always equal to or less than speed. So, to summarize, speed depends only on distance and time, while velocity depends on displacement, time, and direction. Speed and velocity units. Now let us look at the units of speed and velocity. We know that speed is given by the formula. Speed equals distance divided by time. Since speed is distance per unit time, its unit depends on the unit of distance and the unit of time we use. In the MKS system, distance is measured in meters and time in seconds. So, the unit of speed is meter per second, written as m per second or m per s. In the CGS system, distance is measured in centimeters and time in seconds. So, the unit of speed is centimeter per second, written as cm per second or cm per s. Now, let us talk about velocity. Velocity is defined as displacement divided by time. Even though velocity involves direction, its unit depends only on displacement and time. Therefore, the units of speed and velocity are the same. So, whether it is speed or velocity, in MKS system, the unit is m per s. In CGS system, the unit is cm per s. Finally, remember this important difference. Speed is related to distance. Velocity is related to displacement. This is why speed is a scalar quantity, while velocity is a vector quantity. Commercial unit of speed and velocity. Now let us understand the commercial unit of speed and velocity. In daily life, speed and velocity are usually measured in kilometer per hour, written as kilometer per hour or kilometer by h. This is called the commercial unit of speed and velocity. But in physics, we mostly use the c unit, which is meter per second, written as m by s. So, we must know how to convert kilometer per h into m per s. Let us revise the basic conversions first. We know that 1 kilometer equals 1000 meters. 1 hour equals 60 minutes. 1 minute equals 60 seconds. So, 1 hour is equal to 60 multiplied by 60 seconds. That is, 1 hour is equal to 3600 seconds. Now let us convert 1 kilometer per h into m per s. 1 kilometer per h means 1000 meters divided by 3600 seconds. If we simplify this fraction by dividing both numerator and denominator by 200, we get 1 kilometer per h is equal to 5 by 18 meters per s. So, remember this important result. 1 kilometer per h is equal to 5 by 18 meters per s. Now let us apply this in examples. First example. 90 kilometers per h. To convert kilometer per h to m per s, we multiply by 5 by 18. So, 90 multiplied to 5 by 18. 18 divides 90 to give 5. So, 5 multiplied to 5 is equal to 25 meters per s. Therefore, 90 kilometers per h is equal to 25 meters per s. Second example, 18 kilometers per h. Again, multiply by 5 by 18. 18 cancels with 18, leaving 1. So, 1 multiplied to 5 is equal to 5 meters per s. Therefore, 18 kilometers per h is equal to 5 meters per s. So, always remember, the commercial unit of speed and velocity is kilometer per h. The C unit is m per s. And for conversion, kilometer per h times 5 by 18 is equal to m per s. This formula is very important for numericals. Now let us answer an important conceptual question. Under what condition is the magnitude of average velocity equal to the average speed of an object? To understand this, let us first recall the difference between average speed and average velocity. Average speed depends on the total distance traveled, whereas average velocity depends on the total displacement. In general, distance is greater than or equal to displacement. So, average speed is usually greater than the magnitude of average velocity. However, there is one special condition when both become equal. If an object moves in a straight line and it does not change its direction, then the distance traveled is exactly equal to the displacement. In such a case, distance is equal to displacement. Time taken is the same for both. Therefore, average speed is equal to magnitude of average velocity. So, we can conclude the magnitude of average velocity of an object is equal to its average speed only when the object is moving in a straight line. This condition is very important for board exams and numericals. Let us solve this numerical step by step. A cheetah is the fastest land animal and can reach very high speeds. In this question, the cheetah spots its prey at a distance of 100 meters. The average velocity of the cheetah is given as 90 kilometers per hour. We are required to find the minimum time taken to reach the prey. First, convert the average velocity into C units. 1 kilometer per hour is equal to 5 by 18 meters per second. So, 90 kilometers per hour becomes 25 meters per second. Now, use the formula for average velocity. Average velocity is equal to displacement divided by time. The cheetah moves in a straight line. Therefore, the displacement is equal to 100 meters. Rearranging the formula, time taken equals displacement divided by average velocity. Substituting the values, time taken equals 100 divided by 25. This gives the time taken as 4 seconds. Hence, the minimum time taken by the cheetah to reach its prey is 4 seconds. Let us read and understand the problem carefully. During an experiment, a signal from a spaceship reached the ground station in 5 minutes. We are asked to find the distance of the spaceship from the ground station. The signal travels with the speed of light, which is 3 into 10 raised to the power 8 meters per second. Now, let us write the given data. The time taken by the signal is 5 minutes. We convert minutes into seconds. 5 minutes is equal to 5 multiplied by 60, which gives 300 seconds. The speed of the signal is given as 3 into 10 raised to the power 8 meters per second. We have to find the distance traveled by the signal. We know the formula. Speed is equal to distance traveled divided by time taken. Rewriting the formula, distance traveled is equal to speed multiplied by time taken. Substituting the given values. Distance traveled equals 3 into 10 raised to the power 8 multiplied by 300. 300 can be written as 3 into 10 raised to the power 2. So, the calculation becomes 3 into 10 raised to the power 8 multiplied by 3 into 10 raised to the power 2. This gives 9 into 10 raised to the power 10 meters. Therefore, the distance of the spaceship from the ground station is 9 into 10 raised to the power 10 meters. This is the final answer. Average speed problem. Let us solve this numerical step by step. An object travels 16 meters in 4 seconds and then another 16 meters in 2 seconds. We are asked to find the average speed of the object. First, let us recall the formula for average speed. Average speed is equal to total distance traveled divided by total time taken. Now, let us calculate the given values. The object covers 16 meters in the first part and 16 meters in the second part. So, the total distance traveled is 16 plus 16, which is 32 meters. Next, let us find the total time taken. The time taken in the first part is 4 seconds and in the second part is 2 seconds. So, the total time taken is 4 plus 2, which is 6 seconds. Now we substitute these values into the formula. Average speed equals total distance traveled divided by total time taken, that is 32 divided by 6. When we calculate this, we get 5.33 meters per second. So, the average speed of the object is 5.33 meters per second. Example 3. Average speed and average velocity. Usha swims in a swimming pool that is 90 meters long. She swims from one end of the pool to the other and then returns back along the same straight path. In this way, she covers a total distance of 180 meters in 1 minute. We are asked to find her average speed and average velocity. First, let us write the given values. The total distance covered by Usha is 180 meters. Since she comes back to the same starting point, the total displacement is 0. The total time taken is 1 minute, which is equal to 60 seconds. Now, let us calculate the average speed. Average speed is defined as the total distance covered divided by the total time taken. So, average speed equals 180 divided by 60. This gives us 3 meters per second. Next, let us calculate the average velocity. Average velocity is defined as total displacement divided by total time taken. Here, the displacement is 0 because Usha returns to her starting point. So, 0 divided by 60 gives 0 meters per second. Therefore, we can conclude that the average speed of Usha is 3 meters per second and her average velocity is 0 meters per second. In this part of the chapter on motion, we will now move on to acceleration. First, we will understand what acceleration means and how it is related to change in velocity with time. Next, we will learn about the different types of acceleration, such as positive acceleration, negative acceleration, and uniform acceleration. By the end of this section, you will be able to clearly identify acceleration and distinguish between its different types using simple examples. Acceleration. Now let us understand a new concept in motion called acceleration. Acceleration tells us how quickly the velocity of an object changes with time. In simple words, the rate of change of velocity is called acceleration. Look at this example of a vehicle on a busy road. Here, the velocity of vehicles keeps changing with time. Whenever velocity changes, acceleration is present. Acceleration can occur due to three reasons. 1. Change in speed. 2. Change in direction. Or 3. Change in both speed and direction. Mathematically, acceleration is defined as acceleration equals change in velocity divided by time. Change in velocity means the difference between final velocity and initial velocity. So we can write the formula as acceleration equals final velocity minus initial velocity divided by time. We represent acceleration by the symbol a. Initial velocity is represented by u. Final velocity is represented by v. And time is represented by t. Therefore, the formula becomes a equals v minus u upon t. Now let us look at the units of acceleration. In the MKS system, velocity is measured in meters per second. So acceleration is measured in meters per second square. That is, meter per second squared. In the CGS system, velocity is measured in centimeters per second. So acceleration is measured in centimeters per second squared. To conclude, acceleration tells us how fast the velocity of an object is changing with time. If velocity does not change, acceleration is zero. Types of acceleration. Acceleration can be of different types depending on how the velocity of an object changes with time. Let us understand the three main types of acceleration with simple examples. First, positive acceleration. Positive acceleration occurs when the velocity of an object increases with time. In other words, the object is speeding up. For example, when an airplane is taking off, its speed keeps increasing as it moves along the runway. Since the velocity is increasing, the acceleration is positive. Next, negative acceleration, also called retardation or deceleration. Negative acceleration occurs when the velocity of an object decreases with time. This means the object is slowing down. A common example is an airplane landing on the runway. As it lands, its speed gradually decreases. Because the velocity is decreasing, the acceleration is negative. Now, let us look at zero acceleration. Zero acceleration occurs when the velocity of an object remains constant. This means there is no change in speed or direction. For example, when an airplane is flying at a constant speed in a straight line, its velocity does not change. Since there is no change in velocity, the acceleration is zero. So, to summarize, if velocity increases, acceleration is positive. If velocity decreases, acceleration is negative. If velocity remains constant, acceleration is zero. MCQs on acceleration. Let us understand these questions based on the concept of acceleration. Question 1. Earth rotating on its axis is an example of which type of acceleration? The correct answer is zero acceleration. This is because the Earth rotates with an almost constant angular speed. There is no change in the magnitude of velocity with time. Since acceleration depends on the change in velocity, and the velocity remains constant, the acceleration is zero. So, the correct option is C, zero acceleration. Now, let us move to the next question. Question 2. A car starting from rest and then moving forward is an example of which type of acceleration? The correct answer is positive acceleration. When a car starts from rest, its initial velocity is zero. As it begins to move, its velocity increases with time. An increase in velocity means the car is experiencing positive acceleration. Therefore, the correct option is A, positive acceleration. To summarize, Motion with constant velocity gives zero acceleration, and motion where velocity increases gives positive acceleration. Let us understand these questions one by one. Question 3. The distance traveled by a body in a given direction in unit time is called what? The correct answer is velocity. Speed tells us how fast an object moves, but it does not include direction. Velocity, on the other hand, is speed with direction. Since the question clearly mentions distance traveled in a given direction, the correct term is velocity. So, the correct option is A, velocity. Now let us move to the next question. Question 4. Which of the following statements is correct? The correct answer is units of speed and velocity are the same. Although speed and velocity are different physical quantities, both are measured as distance traveled per unit time. Therefore, their units are the same in all systems, such as meters per second or kilometers per hour. So, the correct option is C. Units of speed and velocity are same. To summarize, velocity is speed with direction, and speed and velocity always share the same units. Acceleration, numerical problem. Let us solve this numerical step by step. A bus decreases its speed from 80 km per hour to 60 km per hour in 5 seconds. We are asked to find the acceleration of the bus. First, let us write the given values. The initial speed, denoted by U, is 80 km per hour. To convert it into meters per second, we multiply by 5 upon 18. So, the initial speed becomes 22.22 meters per second. Next, the final speed, denoted by V, is 60 kilometers per hour. Converting this into meters per second gives 16.66 meters per second. The time taken, t, is 5 seconds. Now, we use the formula for acceleration. Acceleration equals final velocity minus initial velocity divided by time. That is, A equals V minus U upon t. Substituting the values. Acceleration equals 16.66 minus 22.22 divided by 5. This gives us an acceleration of minus 1.112 meters per second squared. The negative sign tells us something important. It indicates that the velocity of the bus is decreasing. This type of acceleration is also called retardation or deceleration. So, the acceleration of the bus is minus 1.112 meters per second squared. Acceleration, train problem. Let us solve this problem step by step. A train starts from a railway station and moves with uniform acceleration. It attains a speed of 40 km per hour in 10 minutes. We are asked to find the acceleration of the train. First, let us write the given values. Since the train starts from the station, the initial speed, denoted by U, is 0 km per hour. The final speed, denoted by V, is 40 km per hour. We convert this into meters per second by multiplying by 5 upon 18. So, the final speed becomes 11.11 meters per second. Next, the time taken, t, is 10 minutes. Converting minutes into seconds, 10 minutes equals 10 multiplied by 60, which is 600 seconds. Now, we use the formula for acceleration. Acceleration equals final velocity minus initial velocity divided by time. That is, A equals V minus U upon t. Substituting the values. Acceleration equals 11.11 minus 0 divided by 600. This gives us an acceleration of 0.0185 meters per second squared. So, the acceleration of the train is 0.0185 meters per second squared. In this part of the chapter on motion, we will focus on uniform and non-uniform acceleration. First, we will understand what is meant by uniform acceleration, where the velocity of an object changes by equal amounts in equal intervals of time. Next, we will discuss non-uniform acceleration, where the change in velocity is not the same in equal time intervals. We will use simple daily life examples to clearly distinguish between these two types of acceleration and understand where each one occurs. By the end of this section, you will be able to identify, define, and differentiate between uniform and non-uniform acceleration with confidence. Uniform acceleration. Let us now understand uniform acceleration. Uniform acceleration means that the velocity of a body changes by equal amounts in equal intervals of time. To understand this, let us take an example. Imagine a van that is initially at rest. That means, at 0 time, the velocity of the van is 0 meters per second. Now observe the table shown on the screen. At 5 seconds, the velocity becomes 8 meters per second. At 10 seconds, the velocity is 16 meters per second. At 15 seconds, it increases to 24 meters per second. At 20 seconds, it becomes 32 meters per second, and so on. Notice two important things. First, the time interval is the same everywhere. The difference between each reading of time is 5 seconds. So, the time intervals are equal. Second, look at the change in velocity. From 0 to 8, the change in velocity is 8 meters per second. From 8 to 16, again the change is 8 meters per second. From 16 to 24, once again the change is 8 meters per second. So, the change in velocity is constant for every equal interval of time. This clearly shows that equal intervals of time, equal change in velocity. Therefore, the van is moving with uniform acceleration. So, we can conclude, if a body shows equal changes in velocity in equal intervals of time, the acceleration is called uniform acceleration. Non-uniform acceleration. Now let us understand non-uniform acceleration. If the change in velocity of a body is unequal in equal intervals of time, then the body is said to have non-uniform acceleration. To understand this, let us look at the example shown on the screen. At the beginning, the van is at rest. So, at 0 second, the velocity is 0. Now observe the table carefully. The time interval is the same throughout. Each time step is 5 seconds. But look at the change in velocity. From 0 to 5 seconds, velocity increases by 7 meters per second. From 5 to 10 seconds, it increases by 8 meters per second. From 10 to 15 seconds, it increases by 11 meters per second. From 15 to 20 seconds, it increases by 4 meters per second. From 20 to 25 seconds, it increases by 10 meters per second. From 25 to 30 seconds, it increases by 8 meters per second. From 30 to 35 seconds, it increases by 4 meters per second. So, although the time intervals are equal, the increase in velocity is different each time. This means the change in velocity is not constant. Therefore, the van is moving with non-uniform acceleration. Now let us answer the question. When will you say a body is in uniform acceleration and non-uniform acceleration? First, uniform acceleration. If an object travels in a straight line and its velocity increases or decreases by equal amounts in equal intervals of time, then the body is said to be in uniform acceleration. This means the change in velocity is constant with time. A common example of uniform acceleration is the motion of a freely falling body under gravity. Now, let us understand non-uniform acceleration. If an object travels in a straight line and its velocity changes by unequal amounts in equal intervals of time, then the body is said to be in non-uniform acceleration. Here, the change in velocity is not constant. For example, when a car travels along a straight road and passes through a crowd, its speed keeps changing irregularly. So, the car undergoes unequal changes in velocity in equal intervals of time. Therefore, the car is moving with non-uniform acceleration. Thank you for watching. I hope this lesson helped you understand the basic concepts of motion clearly. Motion Part 2 is coming next, where we will learn graphical representation of motion, including distance, time and velocity time graphs, with clear explanations and solved examples. If you found this video helpful, please like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel for more CBSE science lessons. If you have any doubts, feel free to write them in the comments. Don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated. See you in the next class. Happy learning!